Hey, this is editing Mackenzie. Ignore the boxes in the back. So this video was recorded weeks ago, actually, like right after I finished the fall of the House of Usher. I recorded this video, but like I said in my screen video, I decided not to post it at the time just because the SAG after strike was going on. Now, officially, the SAG after strike ended today, Thursday. This is probably when I'm going to post it too, on Thursday, but they officially ended the strike. I think they still have to send the offer to the committee to vote on and whatnot, but the SAG after strike is technically over, so you'll be seeing a lot more promotion of projects. Things that got delayed, they're probably gonna pushing those back to earlier dates, things like that. So yeah, this video then got recorded, but in solidarity with SAG after, I didn't post it, but now I will be posting it. So yeah. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Mackenzie Janelle. I'm trying to get back into the YouTube groove. I act. I want to do more acting, obviously, but I'm a big film, TV, horror connoisseur. So that's what I like to talk about on my channel. And if you're coming back here or whatever and you just watching a few minutes to support, I don't blame you. I talk a lot, so sometimes these videos be too long. Okay, hello. I know you thought I wasn't gonna be back. I don't know why you thought that, because I told you that I was committed to doing this, so I don't know why you thought that I was like lying or something. But yeah, I'm back. Today, if you didn't read the title, we are going to be discussing the fall of the House of Usher. No, not that Usher. The the Usher family. It is a story by Edgar Allan Poe. If you are in high school, or if you were in high school or something like that, then you probably have heard of Edgar Allan Poe. I know I have. I read his stories in high school. Mike Flanagan created the series. He's one of my favorite directors, honestly. Like, he is somebody that I definitely want to work with. Fall of the House of Usher is a story in and of itself, but within the series, Mike Flanagan incorporated other Edgar Allan Poe stories in that, which I'll be talking about. So I won't be reacting to the series or anything like that. I'm going to be talking about the plot, the characters, and some other things like the adaptations and things like that. So I will be getting this out the way now. Spoilers abound. I don't know how to talk about a series in full without spoiling it, so be aware of that. But yes, we're about to get to the video. I have my trusty phone with my notes. That's Jack Harlow. Love him. This show is literally was like a 10 out of 10 for me, to be completely honest. So let's jump into it. Also, here's the fit for today. It's a cute little black corset and a little M necklace. I don't have a U. I want it to be on theme or whatnot. And the corset was just like screaming like rich. No, it's not. I was gonna say the corset is just like screaming rich. I mean, it's a cute little corset. I got on leggings under it though. You know, you're supposed to just be fancy up on the top. Who cares about the bottom? But without further ado, let's get into the video. Okay, so within the video, there are a few different topics that I do want to talk about. So first of all, we're going to talk about the plot overall. The episodes jump. It follows a timeline, but the way that so it's like the first episode puts us in the present, I believe. And throughout the episodes, we jump back two different times. We jump back earlier in the week, and then we jump back like decades. So there's like three-ish storylines happening at the same time. But baby, I'm great at untangling webs. We're also going to be talking about the characters individually, because each character has a story or has been adapted from an Edgar Allan Poe work. Also because I love the cast for this. And then we're going to talk about overall thoughts on the show. I'll be honest, I've only watched it once. I was going to rewatch it before this video. But when it comes to movies and TV shows and things, I have a great memory anyway. So, I can basically, I can vividly remember what was going on in that show. And then lastly, we're kind of going to talk about Mike Flanagan's contributions to the horror genre in and of itself, because Mike Flanagan is a genius to me, and Netflix is losing out on a genius. Mike Flanagan had a deal with Netflix for the past couple of years or whatever, and I think the fall of the House of Usher marks like the last project that he has with Netflix. I don't know where he gonna take his talents, but all I know is that I'll be seated. I will be seated. So now, let's begin with the overall plot. So the fall of the House of Usher is a Edgar Allan Poe story already. So basically, and I will be reading off of my notes, baby. I definitely will. So basically, the short story, because Edgar Allan Poe, he wrote short stories. It was published in 1839, and it's about a man named Roderick Usher, and he invites a friend, who is the narrator, to a decrepit house to talk. So him and his sister Madeline Usher are the only ones left alive. There's no backstory to it. Like, that's just what's going on right now. And the narrator throughout the short story tries to cheer Roderick up when he discovers that Madeline is still alive, and Madeline attacks Roderick, and then they both die, marking the fall of the House of Usher. Like, they're all completely dead and whatnot. So, very, very short, not a lot of details. I don't know how Mike Flanagan expands it. Like, that man is a genius. That is a true storyteller or whatnot. Because the plot that Mike Flanagan offers us is just, like, insane. I mean, it's more of just, like, expanding on that story. Like, that's not a lot of plot, to be honest. It's a very good idea to adapt a story like this because there's not a lot of, like, backstory. So you can creatively do things, which is what Mike Flanagan did. So that's the plot of the short story that Edgar Allan Poe wrote. And then we have the episodes. So there is a total of 8 episodes, I believe. Throughout the 8 episodes, spoilers. Spoiler. Like, this is the line of spoilers right here. You're about to cross that line. So, the 8 episodes, we see about, I'm going to say, from the second to the last episode, the 8th episode, I believe, we go through the each death of each sibling. So I'll start with the characters. The only thing that is the same from the short story is Roderick Usher. He is the matriarch of the Usher family, and he is like the CEO, or like he owns Fortunato Pharmaceuticals. That's their company. And when they said pharmaceuticals, first of all, Fortunato is like another like thing in the Edgar Allan Poe universe. I'm gonna call it that. But when they said pharmaceuticals, I was like, oh yeah, no, they're shady. They are shady. I do not trust Big Pharma. And then his sister, Madeline Usher. She is also, of course, a character. I'm not going to call her the matriarch because she's not like the mom of anybody. She doesn't have any children. I mean, I guess Roderick doesn't either now, but she doesn't have any children. It is just Madeline. So Roderick Usher has 6 different kids. 6 kids which die. All of his kids die in the span of 2 weeks. Maybe 3 funerals in 1 week and 3 funerals in another week. Like, it's bad for him. Very, very bad for him. First, we have his oldest, Frederick Usher. You have seen him before in pretty much The Haunting of Bly Manor, The Haunting of Hill House, and Midnight Mass for sure. He was in those three shows for sure. They call him Freddie, so I'll probably refer to him as Freddie, or they call him Froderick for a very good reason throughout the series. Then we have the second oldest, Tamerlane, but she has character. She was in Hush. She was in Midnight Mass. She plays Bev Keane, I believe, in Midnight Mass. So she's awesome. She's incredible. Because if you don't know, if you're not familiar with Mike Flanagan's work, he does, recycle his actors, which is one of the reasons why I would just love to be in one of his works, because baby, I know I'll be back for a second. If I do good, I'll be back. Also, these are all by different mothers, by the way. He has 6 kids with 5 different mothers. So his first wife, Annabelle Lee, is the mother of Frederick and Tamerlane. So then we go to his third child, Victorine Lafrecatte. Her name is important. There's also a reason why she doesn't have the name of Usher. It's not truly explained, but I think it does tie into the story. So Victorine Lafourcade, she plays Hannah in Bly Manor. Awesome. I was hoping I would see her again because she was not in Midnight Mass, so I was kind of sad. Fourth kid, we have Napoleon Usher. Why is that man's name Napoleon? I have no clue, but everyone calls him Leo. So I will be calling him Leo. He is played by Rahul Kohli. I think that I'm saying that right. Who was also Sheriff Hassan in Midnight Mass. I giggle talking about him. I love him. And he was also Owen in Bly Manor. And then we have our fifth kid, Camille La España. There is also a reason why her last name is not Usher. And she is played by the lovely, gorgeous, incredible Kate Siegel. When I tell you I love that woman, I love that woman. She's the wife to, and look, I don't even want to say that because like she's an entity in and of herself. But she is married to Mike Flanagan, the director. So you've seen her in every single thing Mike Flanagan has done. She's been in Hill House, Bly Manor, Midnight Mass, this, she was in Hush, like she's literally been in everything. And then we have the youngest, Prospero Usher, who is not affectionately, because there is no affection. He is known he is known as Perry to the rest of the family. So to recap, we have Frederick Usher, Tamerlan Usher, Victorine Lafourcade, Napoleon Usher, Camille La España, and Prospero Usher. 6 of his kids. They all die. It's like boom, bam, boom, bam, bam, boom. They all die. And within that, Freddie has a daughter named Lenore. She is very important. She is played by Kylie Curran, who was Abra, the lead in Doctor Sleep. One of my favorite movies, like, of all time. There are also some, like, extra characters that we should know. So, first of all, we have young Roderick being played by Zach Gilford. Love him. I did not like him in Good Girls, but I loved him in Midnight Mass. He played Riley Flynn in Midnight Mass. And then we have Willa Fitzgerald. I know her from the MTV Scream series. An incredible series, by the way. If you like Scream, you'll like the MTV series. Like, it was literally incredible. She plays a younger Madeline because we are, going back and forth in the future and the past and everything. And then we have the mysterious character named Verna, played by Carla Gugino. I think that might be how you say it. All I will say is that she gives the best performance out of everybody in this entire series. I will say that now. Obviously, everybody else is on their A game, but like Carla Gugino gets like, oh my gosh, she has such a wide range in just this one series. She's incredible, like literally magnificent. And then Mark Hamill, Mark Hamill is in the series, and he plays Arthur Pym, affectionately known by the family as the Pym Reaper. He is like the family lawyer, the family attorney. He's like the Shield, basically. So yes, that rounds out our cast. So for each episode, I will give a short little rundown and kind of just talk about like how it relates to like, the past and the future and everything like that. So the plot lines that we have going, we have the first plot line. So in the first episode, it is very closely matched to like the story of the fall of the House of Usher. So Roderick Usher, he invites his friend, he actually has a name, he's not just the narrator. He invites his friend Auguste Dupin to this abandoned, decrepit, rundown house or whatever. And basically this is coming off of a court case that August lost. He's like some kind of attorney. He's with the state. Roderick invites August to this rundown house. They also have a history. If you ask me, it was given very much like homoerotic, but it wasn't confirmed, so I won't say anything for sure. But he invites him to this decrepit house, and basically this is after they lost the court case, and Roderick basically says, I'm here to give you my confession for the death of my kids and everything that you've ever charged me for in terms of like the company, Fortunato. And then he kind of just begins to say, oh, August basically is like, well, your kids all died in freak accidents. And Roderick is like, no, they didn't. And there's a reason for that, and I'm going to explain to you what that reason is. And that plot line is taking place in the future, like presently. So it's like the past leading up to the future, and then the future also known as the present. It's a little confusing. The first plot line basically is at like telling, it's kind of giving us information on how Roderick and Madeline grew up, and basically how they became to like how they became owners of Fortunato and what they had to do to get there. And then we have for episodes 2 to 7, I believe. Episodes 2 to 7 are, or 2 to 8, are basically the deaths of all of his children. Each sibling gets an episode dedicated to them, which I love. And then the last episode is kind of, we're wrapping everything up. The truth is being told about everything. I will begin with episode 1. Episode 1 is called A Midnight Dreary. Basically, every episode is going to reference an Edgar Allan Poe work or story, or just Edgar Allan Poe in general. Roderick Usher is introduced after he details how he lost all 6 of his children, and we are at the funeral of his 3 oldest, which again is Frederick, Tamerlane, and Victorine. And he has a new wife, Juno, very, very young. That girl is young. And outside of the funeral, he collapses and he sees a raven. Very, very important. We start with Madeline and Roderick's childhood. How basically their mother, Eliza, was the secretary to the CEO of Fortunato, and his name was William. She became extremely sick and she would not accept any medical help, basically. So they went and they asked William to help because of, an obligation to them. There's an implication there that William is their father, but he does not claim them. A rich CEO sleeping with his secretary, that's like, like CEO 101, right? Right. So he does not help. So their mother dies, and instead of calling a hospital or anything, or calling anybody to help, these poor kids take wooden planks off of a shed. They create a coffin for their mother and they bury her themselves. Now we're flashing this way. So in court, before the funerals, August reveals that there's an informant in the family, which gets everybody riled up because we have a traitor amidst us, or amongst us. Oh my, Roderick decides to put a bounty on the informant. He offers $50 million to whoever finds the informant. Roderick tells August of an encounter with a woman back in New Year's of 1980 with a woman named Verna. That is how the story is introduced. I will not go super into the details of each episode, but I wanted to give you kind of a background of where we're going from that first episode. Also, each title of each episode does give, it relates to each character in general. Episode 2 is called The Mask of the Red Death. If you've never read the story, I read it a few times in high school, actually. Mask of the Red Death is about this prince named Prospero. You see where we're going? This Prince Prospero, he hosts a large masquerade ball in his castle to get away from the plague that's going around. When this random stranger comes in to the ball or whatever, and there are 7 rooms. He goes through each of these 7 rooms in the ball, and everyone dies. Everybody in the ball dies. There's a couple of things that we can pick out just from knowing the story. First of all, Prospero, wait a minute, that's the youngest, right? Yeah, it is. Uh-oh. This is Prospero's death episode. Oh my. 2 important things that happen in this episode is that we have something going on in the past, and then we have Prospero's death. In the past, Roderick is married to Annabelle Lee, who is the mother of Tamerlane and Frederick. And basically, Madeline is also living with them, so they're all just one big family. I'm not going to say happy. Roderick is trying to pitch the new drug Ligadone to the new CEO of Fortunato named like Rufus Griswold or something like that. You know, something weird. And it's not taking, like, at all. Harry, he decides to host a secret party at an abandoned building that is a Fortunato property. The problem is with this property is that they were dumping environmental waste in that building, and they wanted to tear it down, but nobody ever got around to tearing it down. So what the family does is each sibling gets like $1 million loan or something. That sounds familiar, right? They get like $1 million loan to go off on a new business venture or whatnot. And Perry suggests clubs. Yeah, he suggests a chain of nightclubs. Not something that could like help the world. No, he suggests let's build nightclubs across the world. Obviously, Roderick says no, and Madeline says, are you an idiot? So Perry decides to have a secret party, a masquerade party at that. You see where I'm going with this? Yeah, you see where I'm going with this. He decides to host a secret party, and what's significant about this is that he invites Freddie's wife to the party, basically under the guise of have some fun, you're still sexy. She is. I mean, why lie? He invites her under the guise of let's have some fun. Like, I know you're still cool. Like, I can't believe my brother is even with you in the first place. You know, kind of seducing her, you know? I'm not going to say Perry's, like, not cute. He's crazy, though. Like, it's kind of established that Perry is, like, insane. Like, there is something very wrong with that boy. We get to the masquerade party. Everybody's having fun. You know, it's debauched, you know? And Freddie's wife also attends. She's kind of trying to get at, you know, she's trying to get at Prospero. Not too much, though. But kind of just like a, hey, like, I'm here kind of thing. Prospero does have an ulterior motive. He invites some of the most famous people, political people, and he records it. Basically saying, like, this is his real ploy. He's finna get money from the information from blackmailing people. Basically, Verna enters the party. We see the woman Verna. She enters the party. Carla Gugino was rocking her little lingerie set. I'm not gonna lie. She looked great. She enters the party. She catches Perry's attention, and she kind of, you know, gives him a little speech about consequences and things like that. She leaves, and Verna signals to the waitstaff to leave. She also tells Freddie's wife to get out of there, but she doesn't. So after the waitstaff leave and everything, the sprinklers turn on. It's supposed to be the climax, for lack of a better word, of the event. Until people start burning. Because what is that coming out of the sprinklers? Acid. Acid is coming out of the sprinklers. And Perry dies. That's the end of that episode. Wow, right? I mean, when I say it, you know, like, describing it is like I can't really, you know, say everything, but seeing it is like, this is what we're in for. Okay. Very great second episode. It really is like, oh wow. Because in the beginning, you know that everybody's gonna die, but when you see it, you're like, oh, this is not gonna be like regular deaths. Like, this is gonna be insane. Mask of the Red Death very closely relates to Prospero. Like, I mean, the prince's name was Prospero, and Prospero in the show was seen as like a prince or whatever. So that connection is not hard to draw. To the third episode, which is called Murder in the Rue Morgue. I'm gonna be honest, I did not understand why it related to Camille's episode, but after looking it up, I was like, oh yeah. Murder in the Rue Morgue is also a story that Edgar Allan Poe wrote. The only things that are similar is that Camille Espana is a character in Murder in the Rue Morgue or whatever, and also it includes Auguste Dupin's character. He's not he's not in the same capacity as he is in the show, but their characters are pretty much, you know, that's how they're connected. In the story, Camille La España and her mother are murdered in a like very brutal way, and we don't find out until later that they were murdered by a chimpanzee. Now you may be thinking, huh, that's an odd story. What will it have to do with Camille in the show? Baby, I'm about to tell you, because it's insane. We are back in the past where Roderick is trying to sell the Ligodone to Rufus. Turns out that Rufus, at first he denied the idea, but then he went behind Roderick's back. I mean, I guess it's not going behind his back since he's CEO. But he takes credit for the idea of Ligodone, which makes Roderick very, very angry. But Madeline basically tells him to just bide his time, work the position that he's in, and understand that he's in a very good spot. He gave Rufus the idea for Ligodone. He's about to make the company a lot of money, even if his name isn't on it. In the present, we have Pym, Arthur Pym, arriving on the scene and basically seeing that Perry's no longer there, kind of investigating the scene. He pulls a lot of weight. He takes what he wants from crime scenes. He has first looks at the crime scenes. Like, that's how much weight the Usher name pulls. He also finds Freddie's wife, Morella. She's still alive. She's extremely burned from the acid, but she is still alive, which is insane. Roderick confesses to August that they were hiding acid in the tanks that Perry hooked the sprinklers up to avoid fines and regulations from like the EPA or whatever, which just like lets you know how like evil they are. Like, they are evil. And if they would have removed those buildings, it was Freddie's task to remove the buildings, knock them down. That would have prevented Perry's death. The family is mourning, but Camille, she's a PR genius. A PR genius and a PR nightmare. She basically wants to find a way to turn his death into public sympathy amidst the trial. Camille has this big idea that Victorine is the informant in the family. So she wants to find some information about what she's doing. Victorine is a like scientist. Her and her wife are like doctor scientists, pretty much. So Victorine, like, she wants to create this kind of mesh mechanical device that keeps the heart beating. And she tested on, guess what? Chimpanzees. You know where I'm going with this, right? So we see Verna again. Verna comes to Victorine, and she basically poses as this woman who badly needs heart surgery, which leads Victorine to basically book her for surgery to become a first human trial. Victorine has not made good progress on her heart machine thing. It's unsuccessful, like completely unsuccessful. It doesn't work on the chimps at all, but she's been basically giving them adrenaline to try to make it seem like they are surviving with the machine. We also see Verna, she's working like overtime right now. Verna also poses as some kind of like escort. Tamerlane has she has a cuckold fetish. She basically likes to see her husband dine and maybe have sex with her husband. That's like, she gets off on that. So Verna poses as the woman for the nights. Leo and Camille are pretty good friends or whatnot. They're pretty close. So Leo, he has a boyfriend that he cheats on like a lot. Leo accidentally offs his boyfriend Julius's cat Pluto. It's a black cat, so if you know Edgar Allan Poe, then you know or whatnot. And he hides the evidence. So finally we get to the climax of the episode. So what Camille decides to do, since she is so stuck on her belief that Victorine is the informant, she decides to sneak into the facility where Victorine works and does her experiments. And she encounters Verna, the security guard. Verna is everywhere, baby. Like I said, she's putting in work. She's getting her job done. So she decides to investigate the lab, and Camille finds where the chimpanzees are being held. And she finds out it's kind of like some crazy, like bad stuff going on in that lab. And Verna also goes in there and basically talks to her, says very cryptic things, and she kind of tries to figure out why Camille hates Victorine so much. And during the time, Verna becomes very animal-like. Like, she's growling, she's making weird sounds, she hopping on a table. And then it starts to kind of click in your mind while watching it. You're like, holy crap. Like a chimpanzee is about to kill this woman. We see that one of the gates to the chimpanzee's cage becomes unlocked. During the whole thing, I think Camille finally realizes, like, I don't know exactly what's going on, but I do know that I'm not about to be here in this world for much longer. She said, it's my favorite scene in the show. It's literally like one of my favorite scenes in the show. So she says, F it, I got mine. Holds up her phone, takes a picture of what she thinks to be Verna with the flash. It's actually a chimpanzee, and then boom, Camille's out of there. Watching it, I think that was probably my favorite, or one of my favorite death scenes, because it was just like, I love Kate Siegel, obviously, but watching it, it was just like, oh my gosh, like, you know what's about to happen. And once I had read the story of what Murder in the Rue Morgue was, and they had revealed that Camille was killed by a chimpanzee, I was like, oh, so that's how that connects. Very good episode. It's an extremely good episode. Next episode is The Black Cat. The only thing that is the same is that the cat is also named Pluto in the short story. This episode, there's another flashback where, like I said, August and Roderick have known each other. They knew each other in the past. This is how we find out that they know each other in the past. So August, he comes to Roderick and basically says that somebody in the company Fortunato has been forging signatures. They forged your signature and a bunch of other people's signatures in order to look like human trials and things went through smoothly. Madeline convinces Roderick basically to stay and just keep doing his thing at Fortunato until they're able to take over, because seeing as how the old CEO, William, was their father, for them it is their birthright to inherit the company. Leo decides to go buy a new black cat so that his partner Julius doesn't find out that he accidentally murdered his cat, which is very important. And also, all the while, Camille's death, like, it starts getting out of control, because now we have 2 kids down, and the kid that just died, one was killed at the facility that her sister works at, but also the PR genius of the family is wiped out. So Roderick, Madeline, and Pim, they look at the security footage from the night, and they discover that that is not the security guard that was supposed to be there. And then they also find out that it is Verna, the woman from 1980, which they still don't want to believe, but they're like, that's her. That is her. Roderick goes to confront Victorine, basically to say, what the heck happened? Why was Camille in the lab in the first place? So Roderick has some kind of heart condition, or some kind of condition, basically, and he's trying to speed up the trials for the heart machine so that he stays good, or whatever. But obviously, Victorine doesn't know this. And in order to receive funding, to continue to receive funding from her father, she has to make it look like the trials are great and that they're going to move to human testing soon enough, which is exactly what she does. Also, Tamerlane is having some problems in her marriage, which I'm not judging people's kinks and fetishes, but I would think that you would start having a problem when you continuously bring women in to dine and sleep with your husband while you watch, but, I'm not judging. Tamerlane kind of starts having a problem because she sees Verna out with her husband Bill outside of their arrangement. So she starts getting kind of worried, which makes sense. Throughout the episode, the new cat that Leo buys to replace Pluto gives him a lot of problems. Scratches his eye, bites him. Like, the cat is just, it keeps hiding. And, like, all the while, like, hurting Leo or whatnot. So he starts to get a bit concerned. And he calls the pet shop where he got the animal from. And Verna comes out. Verna starts to take on very cat-like properties and whatnot. So the cat continues to jump out and, like, torment Leo. To the point where Leo has to catch the cat and he, does some pretty gruesome acts to the cat or whatnot, which is reflected in Verna. Like, now her eyes are gouged out and whatnot. Every little scrape that the cat is taking, Verna takes it all the same. And Leo becomes, like, frantic, trying to find this cat and get it and keep it from hurting him. Julius returns home, and it is a mess. Leo has blood all over him. There are holes in the walls. And the whole time, Leo is like, get that cat. And Julius is like, I don't know what you're talking about. What cat are you even talking about? Until we see the cat on the balcony, and Leo runs after it, and unfortunately, Leo falls over the balcony, and that is 3 down. That is the end of Leo, unfortunately. And also, that is, also, we done lost the two of my favorites. We lost Kate Siegel, and we just lost Rahul Kohli. I'm angry. I'm hurting right now. Mike Flanagan did confirm, obviously, on his Twitter that the cat was imagined. The cat was not real. There was no actual cat being tortured in that universe. Leo imagined it, so. The 5th episode is titled The Telltale Heart. If you know Edgar Allan Poe, you know The Telltale Heart. How, a man murders another man and he hears his heartbeat beneath the floorboards. This is a Victorine-focused episode, by the way. Yeah, we're coming to Victorine now. Which is so fit. Like, Mike Flanagan is, like, he's a genius. Are you kidding me? Like, the whole heart thing. Oh my gosh. It really does play out very smart in the show, too. Oh, it plays out so smart in the show. We go back to a flashback where Madeline goes to Rufus, and basically he reveals that he knows that they're the children of the other CEO, William. He gets, like, weird with her, like, really weird with her. She's always been a big tech person, and basically she wants to come in and digitize records and files and things like that. And Rufus is like, no, but what you can do is be my secretary, because trust and believe I got something for you to do. Which probably involves her on her knees. Yeah, no, we see the game you're playing, Rufus. Ew. They decide to join forces with August to take Rufus down from the inside, where they're going to reveal the forged signatures and the hidden files and things like that. In the present, the family is reeling from the 3 deaths that occurred in quick succession, but they're also becoming jealous over who's the father's favorite and whatnot, things like that. Madeline, also knowing Roderick's condition, she tries to pressure Victorine into starting human trials for the heart machine, or the mesh heart thingy mabobber that she has. This is where it is revealed that August tells Roderick that there never was an informant. That's revealed at some point in the story, which is like, baby, this is what started this whole thing. But yes, he does tell that there was never an informant. He just wanted to pit the family against each other, and he does try to apologize and say, if there's any, reason that your children, may have died because of what I said or something like that, then I am sorry. It's not his fault, though. And Roderick makes it clear that it's not his fault. Whether he would have said there was an informant or not, this would have happened regardless. So they've explored each other's bodies at least once. Madeline, Roderick, and Pym, the Pym Reaper, they find photographic evidence of Verna and Leo's phone. So at this point, each death they see that Verna is associated with, and they believe her to be an illegitimate child, maybe looking to be the first child for Roderick and inherit everything, which is a dumb theory, but it's because they don't want to believe the reality of what it is, you know? Also, Tamerlane is still having her problems. She basically goes to Bill and she accuses him of cheating with Verna, you know, because she keeps seeing her with Bill. Bill does not know what she is talking about, like, has no idea what she is talking about. But Tamerlane gets very aggressive with him, so they end up just being like, no, you know what, I'm not gonna do this or whatever. Roderick, he visits Victorine to kind of talk about the heart device. And throughout the episode, Victorine has heard this strange chirping in her ear. And like nobody else could hear it. You see where I'm going with this? She hears this strange chirping sound that nobody else can hear until Roderick gets to Victorine's house. And he also hears the chirping too. So at that point, Victorine has been very like disoriented the entire day until we find out what happened. So, Victorine's wife, Alexandra, basically figures out that Victorine signed her up to conduct a heart surgery on a woman, Verna, for the human trials of their machine. Alexandra did not agree to it because she knows that people are not ready for human trials, which leads her to basically try to leave Victorine. Victorine basically is like, you can't tell anybody about what we're doing. You can't tell anybody about the family. And Alexandra is like, you're not jeopardizing my future for this family. So no, I will tell whoever I want, whatever I want. This leads Victorine to throw a bookend at Alexandra, which kills her. Oh my gosh, no. So Roderick goes in the room where he also hears the chirping sound, and the scene that is in there, baby, it is a bloodbath. A bloodbath. Alexandra is cut open. It's blood on the walls, blood on the floors. I mean, it's bad. But we figure out what that strange chirping sound is. Victorine, in her grief, in her madness, put the device on Alexandra's heart to keep it beating. But unfortunately, there was no blood in her body, so there was no blood to keep pumping to her heart, which was causing the chirping sound. Roderick is horrified and distraught. Victorine is like, ah, yes, that is what's happening. Realizing that the thing isn't going to work on Alexandra's heart because there's no more blood in it, Victorine offs herself in front of her daddy. Lord. That's episode 5. The Telltale Heart. Next episode is Longggg, which is also an Edgar Allan Poe episode. Episode 6 is a Tamerlane episode, by the way. It's getting bad, baby. It's getting bad. Very, very bad for all of them. So we're down 4. The only similarity that I could find in the Longggg story and the Longggg the Longggg episode, they're completely different stories, but it's the idea of the Longggg representing riches and opulence. That's the only thing that you kind of can take from the story. Tamerlane has this wellness company. They reference Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop multiple times, because that's kind of the character that Tamerlane takes on. It's this kind of out-of-touch wellness woman with a weird brand. Longggg is Goop. Even though Tamerlane says that she's like much better than Goop, she's not an off-brand Goop, yada yada yada, she's better. She's better, she's better, she's better. In the past, Roderick and August, they are gathering a bunch of files to use against Fortunato to, basically say that they're frauding people, they're doing things wrong. Annabelle is very concerned about this because, in her opinion, this is going to get her in trouble, like a lot of trouble. will get them in a lot of trouble. And, they have a family to take care of. Amidst all of this, amidst all of the deaths in her family and her fallout with her husband Bill, Tamerlane is preparing to launch her wellness brand longggg. I almost said Goop, see? While that's happening, Madeline is very adamant that Verna is a threat to the entire family. Roderick is becoming paranoid. It's a lot going on. And his granddaughter, Lenore, kind of expresses what's going on. While all of this has been happening, Morella, Freddie's wife, has been trying to recover until they found out that, she was there at Perry's party, which has made Frederick very wary. He suspects something. We don't know what it is, but he definitely suspects that she was cheating, why she was even there in the first place. So what Freddie does is, in the meantime, he takes Morella away from the hospital where she's healing, and he says, we'll have the best doctors come and we'll help her and whatnot. She is not getting better. It seems like, honestly, she's getting worse. Like, she'll be lucid for a little bit and then she'll just be worse and whatnot, which also is causing Lenore a lot of concern. Juno decides to talk to Tamerlane, and she basically says that the idea of marrying into the Usher family was that she wanted a bigger family, but unfortunately, all the deaths have just made everybody more isolated. It's very sad, actually. Madeline, she is still working on her tech stuff, and she is trying to, this is important too, she is trying to map out the conscience in AI. So she's kind of trying to create a alternate version of a person in AI. In this episode, Pym finally he discovers a link between the Ushers and Verna. He sees that she has been linked to many prominent families that have all had kind of like tragedy, like really good things happen for them, but tragedy also. So he decides to try to find her. That's Pym's job right now. Morella, again, she starts speaking, and we find out that Freddie's been drugging her into silence. She's been healing and she's been getting better, but the reason why she takes a sudden turn is because Freddie has been drugging her, trying to figure out why she was at Perry's party, what she's been doing with Perry, and Morella is just no, I didn't do anything wrong. Which she didn't, by the way. Morella didn't do anything wrong. All she did was go to a party. Yes, she may have slept with Perry, but, stone a woman for trying to have fun, right? What the heck? We go to the longggg launch, and on the screen, Tamerlane sees a sex tape of her husband, Bill, and Verna, or whatever, and herself. She's just kind of there. Tamerlane thinks that she sees Verna at the event, which causes her to break the screen with a mic stand, and she throws the mic stand accidentally into the crowd thinking that Verna's there, and she just hits Juno in the face. Poor Juno. She's just been getting the brunt of everyone's anger this show. Madeline also sees Verna, but she vanishes before she tries to catch her. So this is one of my favorite sequences. It's so, 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 so good. Tamerlane rushes home. I would too. Baby, that's embarrassing. She rushes home, and through the mirrors, she sees that Verna is taunting her, causing her to go around just breaking a bunch of mirrors, while Verna is just telling her, just stay still. You'll be fine if you just stay still for a minute. But she's just scared. She's scared. She doesn't know what's going on. So eventually, after breaking almost all the mirrors in her house, which you would not think are that much, but there's a ton of mirrors in that woman's house, she gets to her bed, and there is an overhead, a ceiling mirror. And suddenly, Tamerlane sees Verna in that mirror, breaks it, and just like this, this is the sequence that I was reminded of. Just like in The Bride of Chucky, the overhead ceiling mirror breaks, and shards of glass rain down on Tamerlane and impale her. It's over for Tamerlane. It's over. I need to know if Mike Flanagan took inspiration from that scene, because when I was watching that, I was like, oh my gosh, it's a Bride of Chucky. That is Tamerlane's death. Now we are on to episode 7. Second to last episode, called The Pit and the Pendulum. If you know Edgar Allan Poe, you know what the pit and the pendulum is. We know what's gonna happen. We know. In 1979, August and Roderick are planning to take the documents and the forged signatures to court from Fortunato and everything. So they're rehearsing, and, you know, that's going on. But when we get to the hearing, Roderick goes against the plan and makes it seem like everything is above board. Absolutely embarrassing August. He's basically like, he either is like, I don't recall, or seems okay to me, which is completely against what they discussed, which was planned the entire time. Madeline and Roderick did plan to embarrass August so that they could get their foot in the doors and be seen as like the savior of Fortunato. Much to Annabelle Lee's dismay. She's a very moral character. She was like, I thought you were going to help August. I didn't think you were going to do this. And actually that leaves Roderick to spend about a night in jail, which very much worries Annabelle Lee, but he's fine. He gets out and he is fine. In the present, Madeline, she is trying to convince Pym that they should take her proposal of basically saying no more pharmaceuticals. We're going to turn Fortunato into a tech company. We're going to pivot into that, which I think is very smart. And basically she's trying to convince Pym that that's what she should do, that maybe she's going to have to buy out Roderick. He's sick anyways. Like, we're done with pharmaceuticals. The future is AI and tech and things like that. Also, in last episode, we discovered that Freddie has been trying to silence Morella. When she's trying to get better, he just continues to silence her. And we find out that he's been giving her a very strong paralytic, which has been keeping her paralyzed. You know, that's what a paralytic does. He is just frantic at this point because he's been on that booger sugar, you know. The deaths of his siblings, everything that was going on, he started doing that nose candy. In a fit of rage and confusion and a whole bunch of stuff, he decides to pull out his wife Morella's teeth. Yeah, he pulls out her teeth. All the while, Verna is in Frederick's ear, and she is whispering to put some of the paralytic, which is also a white powdery substance, into his bag of booger sugar. Roderick and Madeline kind of talk about what happened in New Year's of 1980. We still don't know. We know that Verna was there. She was the bartender at the club. We know that something went down on New Year's Eve, New Year's of 1980, but we don't know exactly yet. And it seems like Madeline and Roderick don't exactly remember, or maybe they blocked it out of their memories. Juno comes to Roderick and asks to get off of Ligadone because that's how they met in the first place. She was in a really bad accident, and she was on a dose of Ligadone that nobody had ever seen before, which impressed Roderick and caused him to marry her. That's the only reason why. So when Juno realizes that for her, Ligadone is pretty much like heroin, she asks to get off of it, and Roderick says no, and says that's the only reason he married her is because she made Ligadone look good. So she decides to leave him. I would too, because you're sabotaging me. This is when we get to Frederick's death. They are currently at the building that he was supposed to tear down that Perry had his party at. And he's got the bulldozers there and everything. He decides to go in the building to pee, I guess, which was like, dude, you can just pee outside. Like, you're a guy. You can just pee outside. Nobody will say anything. He goes in the building to pee, and he does a little dose of the booger sugar, but we find out that it is the paralytic. So he is stuck in the building and whatnot. And they are about to get the orders to bulldoze the building. So Verna comes in, and she's kind of like, you know, honestly, I could have killed you off any way that I wanted to. But once I saw you, pulling out your wife's teeth with pliers, that's when I knew I had to give you something special. And Verna is so real for that. Because you pulled out your healing wife's teeth with pliers. She got full body burns from acid. But you were so concerned with her cheating, the possibility of her cheating, that you pulled her teeth out with pliers? That's evil. Verna, in Freddy's voice, gives the order to pretty much bulldoze the building. And as they do that, there is a piece of the building that starts swinging back and forth like a pendulum. And it's like basically like some type of blade that's just swinging back and forth while Freddy is on the ground paralyzed. And it slowly gets closer and closer and closer to Freddy's stomach. And eventually, boom, it starts cutting him up. It starts cutting him. Eventually, the building falls on him and Freddy dies. At the end of this episode, Madeline is convinced that if Frederick dies, it'll all be over. So she convinces him to overdose on Ligadone. And for a minute, we think, okay, well, that's it. I wouldn't even care anyways because all of my children are dead. If you were gonna off yourself with a bunch of pills, maybe you should have did that after your second or third child ended up dead within a week, But whatever. So he overdoses on Ligadone, but Verna wakes him up and says, no, that's not how that's going down. I still need you alive. And that is the 7th episode. Now we come to the last episode, episode 8. Baby, I have been recording for an hour. That don't even make sense to me, but like I said, I talk. I yap a lot. Last episode is called The Raven, and if you hadn't figured it out by then, Verna is an anagram for Raven, so I think it's important to note that if you've read The Raven, you probably realize, Lenore's a pretty important character in The Raven. That's a character, that's a thing in The Raven, right? Yeah, it is. And this is the episode where all is revealed. This is when we find out what happened in the past. How did they become the CEO of Fortunato? How did Verna get involved in the first place? This is the episode where finally the questions are answered. And if you were like me, who also wondered what the heck happened to the parents' mother, what happened to Frederick and Tamerlane's mother, Annabelle, yeah, that's also answered. So, thank you, Mike Flanagan. Lenore, being the good daughter that she is, who was worried for her mother the entire time, she calls the police after she discovered that her mom's teeth were, brutally pulled out by her father. They get there, and she basically tells, my father did this, he's been drugging her, and he pulled her teeth out. He's been, torturing her. Even though Pym he does not want her to give a statement like that, because that makes Frederick look bad. He should look bad, though. He is a bad person. He's a horrible person. At the funerals of his last 3 kids, Roderick also sees Annabelle Lee. Like I said, we do get that question answered. Basically, Annabelle Lee took her own life after Roderick took the children from her. He basically persuaded them with money and riches, and they came to him because, of course, they would. They don't want to live in poverty. And that caused Annabelle Lee to end her own life, which is extremely sad. And it cemented my hate for Roderick in this episode. I was teetering on the edge of, I feel kind of bad for him because his kids just keep ending up, dead. But, once I found out, he's just a bad person. He's just a bad person. Now we finally figure out what happened New Year's 1980 that cemented Roderick and Madeline as the new owners, as the future of Fortunato. Rufus is there. He's celebrating. He's Roderick, you're in, bro. You're one of the big dogs now. And Madeline, Rufus has a thing for Madeline. So Madeline, she gives him a Amontillado. You see where we're going with this? Gives him a Amontillado and basically brings him down to the basement, for some pleasure or whatnot. When I heard Amontillado, I was like, oh yeah, this is where we're going with this. They go down to the basement, and Rufus, he toe down from the flow down. Like, it's bad. He's stumbling around. Madeline is like, if you can get to me, you can have me. And Rufus like, bet. He could not do it. He passes out, and Rufus wakes up and he's chained to a wall. Roderick gets down there, and Rufus is like, okay, kind of kinky, but also very weird. What's going on here? They just start talking to each other about different things, and they're like, you're gonna go missing, and when that happens, they're gonna need new leadership, and they're gonna look to Roderick for that leadership, and we are going to make sure that, it looks like you are the bad guy in all of this, things like that. So while they're talking to him and doing their villain monologue, because they are villains, Roderick and Madeline are villains, and I am cemented on that idea. Guess what they start doing to Rufus? They start bricking him in. They start laying bricks on top of each other and bricking him into that little space. They are cask of Amontilladoing him. Cask of Amontilladoing him. That's a verb now. When I saw that, I was shocked. I'm like, no way. Madeline says something like, told you he couldn't tell the difference from sherry and Amontillado. You say Amontillado, I'm there. Cask of Amontillado is my favorite Edgar Allan Poe story. My favorite Edgar Allan Poe story. A person gets me mad, don't make me cask of Amontillado you. Yeah. It's that serious. Yeah. That is their plan. They're going to say that Rufus ran off, he's the bad guy in all of this, and they're going to need leadership, and who better to lead them in the company than the man who just saved it, Roderick. They decide to go to the bar where Verna is, and that's where we see that they're establishing their alibi. When everything's done for the night, everybody's cleared out, Verna is basically talking to Roderick and Madeline, and she's like, if you could have anything you want, what would you have? Power, riches, fame, all of that. And Madeline is basically like, I want power, yeah. I want the riches. The fame, I don't really care so much about, but I want the riches. And, of course, Roderick is like, yeah, riches. Yeah, riches. So, Verna, she proposes a deal. We knew that this is probably what happened. But when I tell you the deal, you're going to be like, oh, wow. They're sick. They are sick, especially Roderick. This is the moment where I was like, oh yeah, no, you're the worst human being on the planet. Verna says, I'll give you that. I'll give you wealth, and I'll give you power. I'll give you everything you've ever wanted. And I'll make sure that you never get in trouble for anything. Any court cases, anything. You'll never get in trouble, which is the reason why August could never pin them down for anything. And, of course, Madeline, they're kind of like, what's the catch to this? What's the price? And she's like, it's not a price that you technically have to pay right now. It's a price that your future generation, is going to pay. The next generation can deal with the consequences, with the fallout of everything. But basically she says, I'm going to give you years of wealth and power and everything, but your bloodline will end with you. And I don't think that they really understood what deal she was making, especially when you look at it from a frame of Roderick already has 2 kids. He has Frederick and he has Tamerlane. This lady is saying, I'll give you all the wealth and power that you could want, but your bloodline, the future generations, are going to pay for it. They are going to pay for it, and your bloodline will end. Keeping that in mind, you have 2 kids already. You know that she's saying that your 2 kids are going to pay the price. And what really irked me is that Madeline was like, well, those children are going to have a pretty good life. And Verna even says they are going to live they're going to live a good life. They're going to have a lot of money. They're going to have a lot of power in this world. They're going to, I mean, if you don't take the deal, they'll live a little bit longer, but they won't be rich. Madeline and Roderick accept the deal. They accept the deal. And that kind of just cemented, I was like, yeah, no, I don't care about anybody in this show, actually. That's the moment when I was just like, yeah, no, I don't. Only person who's a good person is Lenore. That's the only person that I care about. That's when I realized, I'm like, yeah, there's nobody else. Like, I don't. They're horrible. They are horrible people. Horrible people. We're back in the present, and Pym, he finds Verna in the decrepit house, and he tries to basically take her out the game, and he's successful until Verna gets back up, and she's like, sorry, I just wanted to see what you would do. Like, you're pretty good at your job. She just pops up on the other couch. She's like, I just had to see what you would do. I'm sorry. Like, that was pretty good. She kind of details what's going to happen to the Usher. She's like, yes, I'm the reason for the Usher's downfall. And trust and believe, I'm not stopping until they're all gone. When they're all gone, though, you will not have a place. You were protected by their name. Their power was extended to you, but they are going to be gone, and you will not be protected anymore. But I can make you a deal to keep you safe. And Pym, like, his conviction really, like, I was like, wow, like, that's incredible. He basically said, no man or woman has ever leveraged me in my 70 years, and I think I want to end off like that. So I'm good. Unfortunately, this is when we get to my least favorite part in this show. Because now you're like, okay, well, now that all now that generation of Ushers is gone, hey, there's still an Usher before Madeline and Roderick. Lenore! Lenore is an Usher, but she's a granddaughter. She's technically a third generation Usher, right? So we leave her alone, right? No, we don't. Lenore finds a woman who is Verna, sitting on her bed. Lenore has no idea what's going on, but Verna is she's very sympathetic, and she's very sad about what she has to do. But before she does what she has to do, she actually gives Lenore what's going to happen in the future, and basically tells her that her mother Morella recovers. She's fine. She recovers, and she sets up a foundation in Lenore's name, which helps a ton of people. And I think that's so, like, oh my gosh, it's just so sad, because you're really just like, they're not gonna kill Lenore, right? Like, she's fine, right? And I think what's the worst part about all of this is that Lenore is without a doubt Roderick's favorite. She's not tainted by anything. Like, she's a good person. And that's the saddest part about it. I think Verna even considered, like, letting her just live, but unfortunately, you gotta honor the deal. Her mother is going to get a large chunk of Fortunato's inheritance once, the dissolution of it happens. And she's going to start that that non-profit in Lenore's name, and she's going to help a lot of people. And she peacefully gives her a good death. So this is a bit confusing, because throughout the series, while August and Roderick are talking, Lenore's been texting Frederick. And that's when it's revealed that actually Lenore, yes, she died later. She died earlier on in the night. So August is like, Lenore is not dead. And he's like, she's dead. And we are brought back to Madeline's AI conscious mapping thing. That was actually an AI of Lenore texting Roderick the entire night. And she's only been texting him one word: nevermore. Hey, now the Raven's starting to make sense, because that's what the Raven says in the story. Nevermore. I learned that from an episode of Epic Rap Battles of History also.
Fame, money, talent, success, you'll always have less. Nevermore.
Roderick discovers Lenore's little body, and he spirals. He goes to his office where all of his dead children are sitting, and Verna is there, and she's like, this entire life that you spent, look at the countless people's lives that you have destroyed from Ligadon, and a hail of bodies starts raining from the skies. It's such an incredibly beautiful scene. Like people have to watch this show. Like, you have to watch it. Like, oh my gosh, it's so well done. Verna basically says, invite August to the house, your old house, the run-down, decrepit house. But before he does that, he asks Madeline to come over. So the entire night while August and Roderick were talking, there's been noises coming from the basement, and Roderick's just kept saying, that's Madeline, that's Madeline. Roderick and Madeline are in the basement, and they're sharing a drink or whatnot, and Madeline basically she's resigned to her death, you know, but she's confident, she's okay with what she's done throughout life. She's like, we didn't do anything wrong. We gave people Ligadon, but we did not cause these addictions. We didn't cause these deaths. We got our money. We did what we wanted to do. And everybody else, the people who got addicted, that's not our fault. We're ushers. We stand tall through it all. Basically just says, like, if I could do it all over again, I definitely would. I wouldn't do anything differently. I mean, I have to commend her for just being like, look, I don't care if people think I'm a bad person. I did what I had to do. And then, unfortunately, we find out that Madeline has been given, you know, kind of the same thing Rufus was given, like a paralytic kind of thing. And this snake, Roderick, he's been acquiring these, like, Egyptian artifacts throughout the series. He decides to kill her and basically prepare her corpse like a mummy with all of these artifacts. He puts these stones in her eyes and wraps her up, like, with a bunch of these burial tools and whatnot. That man is sick. Roderick Usher is sick. Why would you do that to your sister? But basically he says, like, you're a queen and you deserve to go out like a queen. I don't know if he thought he was, like, sparing her from the weird death that Verna would have given them, but, like, what the heck? Like, she makes this whole big speech of how it's just the two of them standing tall together, and then you murder her? Like, come on, man. Finally, we are at the end of Roderick's confession, and he's like, there it is, it's all laid out on the table. August is obviously very shocked, like, what kind of story is this? And at that point, there's a noise from the basement, and we find that Madeline, just like her mother, was not fully dead. She still had a little bit of life in her. So she comes up and she attacks Roderick. I would do the same thing, because why would you do that to me? She has no eyes. Like, parts of her brain are taken out because that's what they do. I guess that's what they did with mummies and everything. They took the parts of the brain out. She attacks Roderick, just like their mother attacked their father, and she strangles him. Deserved. Very much deserved. Very much deserved. Because why would you do that to your sister? August gets out of there. He leaves. He runs away. Because I would do the exact same thing. He leaves and he gets out of there and the house collapses. It was very Carrie-esque, like, you go, I go too. You know, like how she killed her mom, but then she also brought the house down on top of them, like, and so she killed herself too. Like, that was very much what it was giving. After all the dust is settled, Juno actually ends up inheriting everything, obviously, because there are no more ushers. There's only, you know, Roderick's wife or whatever. And she basically says she deads Fortunato. Like, that's no longer a thing. And she takes the money and she starts a foundation and, like, for, like, you know, addiction purposes and whatnot. Arthur, just like Verna said, is arrested because he's no longer protected by the Fortunato name. He's arrested, but he's okay with that. He's perfectly okay with that. And August retires. He leaves a tape recorder at Roderick's, oh my gosh. He leaves his tape recorder at Roderick's grave. And he retires. He basically says, there's no point in putting this story out. Y'all are all dead. Basically, y'all kind of got what y'all deserved. There's no more justice to be had in revealing this crazy story to everybody. Y'all got what y'all deserved. It is what it is. And he leaves it at his grave. Verna, she gets there to their graves, and she basically leaves little mementos on everyone's grave, and she recites a poem. Then a raven flies away, and that is the fall of the House of Usher. All in all, my overall thoughts, there's a lot of thoughts to be had about this series, but the biggest thing that I was thinking after watching this show, this series, Mike Flanagan is a genius. He's so good. Mike Flanagan in adaptations are like, it's God tier storytelling. Like, I've never seen somebody adapt these stories with so much like care and creativity as him. Like, literally, because if you don't know, The Haunting of Hill House is an adaptation. That's a short story or something like that. So is Bly Manor, I believe. Midnight Mass is completely different. That's a completely original story, which is awesome, obviously. He just finds a way to turn characters into like complex, nuanced people that just feel so real. Like, I hated the characters in this story, but at the same time, like, watching them die and like kind of get what they deserve, it was just like, wow, like, they felt real. Leo felt real. Victorine, you couldn't help but to feel bad for her, even though she was doing like bad stuff, but you couldn't help it because you're like, she's just a scientist in pursuit of, but also I don't really like scientists because they do too much. His characters are always so well done, and I think it's because he has such a trust with the cast that he continues to use. Like, the actors that he uses are like a gold mine of talent, especially Carla Gugino. Like, her in this season, this series, was everything. She was like the best performance out of everybody, and that's saying something because everybody did what they had to do. Personally, I think Midnight Mass still is my favorite because that just deals with like religious frenzy and grief and trauma and everything, while this series more so is about the consequences of greed and how power and riches corrupts. Like, every theme that Mike Flanagan has, like, he tells in his series, it's also good. It is also good. I also, lastly, want to kind of just talk about Mike Flanagan's contributions to the horror genre as a general. I was first introduced to Mike Flanagan, I believe it was Ouija Origin of Evil, which I do like that movie a lot. But I wasn't aware that it was him. The first thing that I was introduced to that I was aware was him was his 2016 movie Hush, with Kate Siegel, obviously. And I thought it was so, like, amazing. But then I finally went back and I watched Haunting of Hill House. I was enraptured, like, immediately. Haunting of Hill House is, like, so beautiful. And then Bly Manor came out. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, he's on a historic run right now. And then Dr. Sleep came out, which I already said is one of my favorite movies ever. I like The Shining a lot, but I love Dr. Sleep. That is one of my favorite movies ever. It's incredible. And I think what Mike Flanagan does that, you have really good horror directors. Like Jordan Peele, he's fantastic. He is definitely somebody I want to work with. But Mike Flanagan, he just manages to create these beautiful stories. And his characters are so very human. Like, you can't help but to relate to the characters in each story. And I like that what he does, and I guess I can't always say this is true, because not every single character gets a happy ending, but he writes tragedy and grief in such a way where it's like, you have to feel these things. In the end, you'll be happier for feeling them. Like, he makes grief a good thing to wallow in and to sit in. Like, to be honest, I did not care about any of their deaths during this series. I didn't care because I was like, obviously it sucks that they're like dying in the way like in the ways that they're dying, but they're not good people, so I don't really care. But then we got to Lenore, and while Verna was sitting there like telling her basically that like you are going to leave a lasting impact on people in this world, like it made me so emotional, because it's like like you don't want her to die because she didn't do anything. She didn't make any deals. She wasn't corrupted by this greed that her family has, but unfortunately that decision was made for her a very long time ago. And I just like have to say, if Kate Siegel or any of the cast of The Fall of the House of Usher or Mike Flanagan were to see this video, like, I have to give all of you your props. Like, Mike Flanagan, you are a genius. You are a horror genius. And I feel as though he is so underrated. Like, and maybe it's because all of his series and things are on Netflix, but I need to see more from Mike Flanagan. I want him to be one of those directors that just continues to make stuff. I don't care if it's adaptations. I don't care if it's original ideas. I don't care if it's remakes of something. Baby, I don't care. I don't care. I just need to see more Mike Flanagan in my life. Immediately. Now. I need something now. Kate Siegel, you are the, like, she's, oh my gosh, she's the love of my life. Like, Kate Siegel is the love of my life. If she wasn't married to Mike Flanagan, I would propose on the spot to her. That woman is one of the most talented actresses I think I've ever seen. Ever. And of course, she's underrated. Carla Gugino, that's a masterclass in talent right there. Rahul Kohli, hit my line. Hit my line immediately. I got some things to say to you in private. I want to do a ranking video on all of Mike Flanagan's projects, but I will say that that's a heavy hitter for me right now. I think Midnight Mass is still my favorite because I can relate to it a lot. I can relate to it more than I can to The Fall of the House of Usher because I'm not rich and wealthy, like weirdly wealthy. But it's incredible. It is incredible. And it may sound like I'm promoting it, but it's really just, it's me just appreciating how incredible he is. Like, he's such a good storyteller. Like, if I could, I'd sit here for another hour and just fawn over how good his stuff is and how incredibly talented he is. We're gonna wrap this video up. Fall of the House of Usher, I very much recommend it. It is an incredible series with an even more incredible plot. That is the video. I really hope you enjoyed. If you didn't stay to the end, that's fine. That's okay. Like I said, I talk a lot, so I'm not disillusioned. I guess to the fact that some people don't really stay that long. If you're only watching for like a few minutes to help me collect a view, you can do that too. But if you do, watch the whole video, that would be very nice for me because that does actually help my channel a lot if more people watch for longer. But yeah, if you enjoyed the video, if you enjoy Mike Flanagan, leave a like, comment, subscribe, all of that good jazz. Follow my social medias. They'll be in the description box below. And in terms of my next video, I think I want to either do something reaction or I want to do like a ranking video. I don't know yet. I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.
Mask of the red band, Lily blood curdling, hitting the pendulum, not even unnerving. Perving on your first cousin when she's 13 years old? Now that's disturbing.